Do you have no shame showing up here every single day? My mother-in-law sneered, her voice laced with disdain. Trying to win me over with your cooking? Don't waste your time, you'll never be part of this family. Her words struck like daggers, sharper than I had ever imagined. I stood there frozen as her mocking laughter echoed behind me. All I had wanted was a chance to belong, to build a bridge between us. But that day, something inside me broke, leaving behind only silence and an unshakable determination. My name is Victoria, and I'm 30 years old. I started my career at a company fresh out of college, where I met my husband Jose. What began as a simple workplace romance blossomed into something deeper, and soon we chose to spend our lives together. His kindness, integrity, and tireless work ethic drew me in, and I felt lucky to have him by my side. After we got married, I made a choice. A difficult one, but one I believed in. At Joja's heartfelt request, I left my job to become a full-time housewife. It wasn't easy walking away from my career, but he wanted us to build a life where I could focus on our home, and I was willing to take that step. My coworkers even surprised me with a farewell party, a moment of warmth and appreciation I would always cherish. Since we had worked at the same company, many of our colleagues attended our wedding. It was a beautiful day, one filled with love, joy, and the blessings of those who cared for us. Standing there in my white dress, surrounded by friends and family, I felt nothing but gratitude. It was one of the happiest moments of my life, and I was ready to create a loving home with my husband. Joja lost his father when he was very young, so he was raised solely by his mother. I had always admired her strength, raising a child alone while carrying the weight of both parenting and providing. I wanted to honor her, to show my gratitude for the sacrifices she had made. Becoming part of her family felt like a privilege, and I was determined to build a strong bond with her. But I quickly realized that joining a family wasn't as simple as I had hoped. Before our wedding, I had met my mother-in-law only once, but shortly after we got married, Joja and I visited her to formally introduce me as his wife. She greeted us warmly and welcomed us in. We spent the afternoon sipping tea and sharing stories about work, daily life, and our future plans. She listened attentively, offering advice that reassured me. In that moment, she seemed exactly as I had imagined, a strong, wise woman who had shaped my husband into the person he was. Then, as the conversation wound down, she turned to Joja with a pleasant smile. "Would you mind if I spoke to Victoria alone? Just woman to woman." He agreed without hesitation, saying he'd run a quick errand and be right back. As the door closed behind him, I suddenly felt the weight of the moment. Alone with her for the first time, uncertainty crept in. She must have sensed it because she chuckled softly before speaking. "Victoria," she said, her voice calm yet deliberate, "I see you're trying very hard to fit into this family, but let me make this easy for you. It's a waste of time." Her words struck like a slap. I blinked, trying to process what I had just heard. Her expression remained composed, but the warmth from earlier was gone. "Let me put it simply," she continued, tilting her head slightly. "I do not see you as part of this family. My son chose you, and I allowed it. But if it were up to me, someone like you would never be here." The floor felt like it was shifting beneath me. "For his sake, I'll play along," she added, her voice dripping with finality. "But don't mistake that for acceptance. I will never acknowledge you as family, not in this lifetime." Before the wedding, I had believed her to be a kind-hearted woman, a mother who had raised her son with love. But in that moment, the person before me felt like a stranger. The kindness I had seen before was merely a mask. I had been so eager to form a bond with her, to be a good daughter-in-law, but how could I when she had no intention of accepting me? And yet, I told myself this was only the beginning. Perhaps she just needed time. Determined to earn her approval, I made an effort to see her more often. My husband and I visited on weekends, and on weekdays I stopped by on my own. Despite my responsibilities at home, I managed my time carefully, ensuring that everything was done before heading to her house. I helped with chores and cooked for her, hoping to win her over with meals prepared from the heart. At first, she would begrudgingly taste my food, offering half-hearted remarks like, "Well, it's not terrible." But as time passed, her resistance seemed to wane, if only slightly. One afternoon, I decided to prepare cream stew for her, a recipe passed down from my mother. Cooking had always been my way of connecting with people, and I hoped this meal might help bridge the gap between us. She sat at the table, her usual look of displeasure on her face. But this time she took a bite without a word, no criticism, no sharp insults, just silence. Uneasy, I stepped closer, searching her expression for any sign of approval. Then, without warning, she grabbed the bowl and flung it at me. The hot liquid splashed across my arms, searing my skin. I gasped, the sudden pain stealing my breath. Panicked, I stumbled toward the sink, running cold water over the burns as my mind raced to make sense of what had just happened. Behind me, her laughter cut through the air, cold, merciless. "Still coming here every day. Are you really that shameless?" she mocked. "Thinking you can win me over with your pathetic cooking? Let me be clear. No matter what you do, nothing will change. I will never accept you." I turned to face her, still shaking from shock. "And that's due," she sneered. It was worse than usual. Absolutely disgusting. "Honestly, it's never good, but today's was particularly awful. If that's the best you can do, don't bother coming back." Her words stung, cutting deeper than the burns on my skin. I had only ever wanted a place in her family, to share a bond with the mother of the man I loved. But standing there, dripping wet, my hopes felt like they were slipping away. Still, I refused to give up. Day after day, I returned to her house, enduring her scorn. I convinced myself that time and effort would change things, that if I showed her my sincerity, she might finally see me differently. But deep down, I had to wonder, was I only fooling myself? Could I ever earn her approval? Doubt clouded my mind, wrapping around me like a suffocating fog. The endless cycle of rejection and humiliation had worn me down, but as I stood there, something inside me shifted. A wave of anger surged, pushing aside the sorrow that had weighed me down for so long. She had trampled over my kindness at every turn, treating my efforts like they were worthless. But I wasn't going to let her break me anymore. With renewed resolve, I turned on my heel and hurried home, ready to reclaim my dignity. Just as I reached the door, my phone rang. An unfamiliar number flashed across the screen. Hesitant, I picked up. A paramedic's voice came through the line, steady yet urgent. "Your mother-in-law had an outburst after you left. She lost her temper, caused a scene, and in the commotion she fell and hit her head. Neighbors called emergency services, and she's now unconscious in the hospital." There was a brief pause before he continued. "We're sorry to trouble you, but could you come to the hospital right away?" I exhaled slowly, my fingers tightening around the phone. A strange sense of clarity washed over me. For years she had refused to see me as family. Today I was finally ready to return the favor. "Apologies," I said, my voice steady, "but she isn't my family. I won't be coming. I'll let her son know so he can handle it." The paramedic hesitated, as if unsure how to respond, but I didn't wait. I ended the call, my heart hammering in my chest. For the first time in a long while, I felt no obligation to clean up the mess she had made. Under normal circumstances, any daughter-in-law would have rushed to the hospital. But this wasn't a normal relationship. She had spent years making sure I knew I wasn't part of her family. So now, I was finally taking her at her word. That evening, Jaja went to see her. When he returned, his face was clouded with concern. "The doctors said she suffered permanent brain damage," he told me. "She can still communicate, but her mobility is severely affected. She's going to need round-the-clock care." A few days later, my phone rang again. This time, it was her. "Victoria, please," she pleaded, her voice trembling with desperation. "Help me." I felt nothing. Why would I take care of someone who isn't family? I shot back. Silence stretched between us. Then, without another word, I hung up. Later that night, Joseph sat beside me as I played him the recordings, the cruel words, the insults, the relentless hostility I had endured in silence. As he listened, his face darkened with shock and regret. "I had no idea," he murmured, his voice thick with guilt. "I'm so sorry. I should have seen it sooner." His decision was swift. "She'll go into a care facility. You won't have to be involved at all. I'll take full responsibility." I accepted without hesitation. There was no point in pretending anymore. "Do you think it's cruel of me?" I asked him later. "To refuse to take care of her?" He gave me a soft, knowing smile. "Not at all. No one should be expected to care for someone who treated them that way." And with that, the burden I had carried for so long finally began to lift. Days passed, then weeks. My life settled into a peaceful rhythm, free from the suffocating weight of her presence. Then, one afternoon, my phone rang again. It was her. The moment I answered, she unleashed a furious tirade, spewing venom with the same cruelty as before. I let her go on for a moment before calmly cutting in. "Mother," I said, my voice steady, "are you seriously asking me to care for someone who isn't family?" Her shrieks grew louder, but I barely listened. Somewhere in the background, I heard a nurse trying to calm her down. I sighed. "I'm sorry, but it's too late. The decision is final. You made it clear that I wasn't family, and now I'm choosing to believe you." With that, I ended the call. For the first time, I felt truly at peace. Even in the facility, she continued to create chaos, insulting the staff, arguing with other residents. It wasn't long before we were notified that she was at risk of being evicted. Josia, exhausted by it all, began searching for a cheaper care home, knowing it was only a matter of time before she was forced out. I helped, not out of sympathy, but because I wanted my husband to have one less thing to worry about. As expected, she was soon transferred to a more affordable facility, far from the comfort she had once known. She called again, her voice subdued, almost broken. "Victoria, please," she whispered. "I regret everything. Let's start over. You're my family, and I want to fix things. It's not too late." I closed my eyes. If only she had realized this before it was too late. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice firm, "but I can never acknowledge you as family." Before she could protest, I ended the call. Then, without hesitation, I blocked her number. To me, she was just a stranger now. When I told Josia, he didn't question my decision. "I understand," he said simply. And in that moment, I knew I had taken something from him, the connection he had with his mother, however complicated it had been. But because of that, I wanted to give him everything in return. I chose to focus on what truly mattered, our happiness, our life together. And with that, I finally let go of the past. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.